Norton Abrasives has a rich history in sharpening products that extends back to 1821 with the first discovery of a deposit of mica schist by Person Noyes, a New Hampshire pioneer. This deposit became the foundation of the Pike Company, the first supplier of commercially available natural stones in North America. While the Pike Company continued to quarry natural stone, including the world-renowned Arkansas stones, Norton Abrasives was working in close association with Pike in producing synthetic stones. Later, the two companies were consolidated. Now, Norton offers the world's most comprehensive line of both natural and man-made oil stones, water stones, diamond and coated abrasive products to meet the needs of all sharpening applications.
Hello, my name is Joel Moskowitz. I'm a woodworker, and professionally I sell woodworking tools. About 20 years ago, I learned how to sharpen, and this was a real revelation to me. Sharp tools allow you to work cleanly, cut accurately, and they're safer, and they make woodworking a lot more fun. I have here on the bench a whole bunch of Norton oil stones of various sizes and shapes. This is their big multi-stone. I've got a Arkansas stone in here, I've got an India stone in here, and it's a nice, big stone. It's fun to use. This is my 8x2 that I've had for 20 years, also an Arkansas stone. These are 8x3 stones, which are a very popular size these days. These are modern stones. And you also go down to very small, of all sorts of assorted, really small stones for sharpening, carving tools, and the like. Stones also come in multiple grits, and Arkansas stones themselves come in multiple grits. This is a black Arkansas, a hard Arkansas, and a soft Arkansas. But for the purposes of what I learned how to sharpen with, and one of the things I really like about the method is that there are only two stones being used. This hard Arkansas and this medium India. India stones are invented by Norton in about 1870s, and what they are is a very hard abrasive, aluminum oxide, in a binder, and it's a very hard stone. It doesn't dish. It's also filled with oil. They actually, in the factory, they soak them with oil, so all the pores of the stone are filled with oil. And when you sharpen and you pour oil on it, it doesn't soak through as if it would as like a porous stone. The oil floats on top and makes sharpening easier. And we'll talk about lubrication in a few minutes. Translucent stones aren't porous. There are three reasons to sharpen a tool. The first reason is a tool that's dull from normal use, like this chisel. It was sharp, it's been used, it's not really sharp anymore, and it needs to be rehoned. The second case is a new tool, like this, spoke shave blade. It's right from the factory, it's got rough grind marks all over the place. Sometimes you get them from the factory a little better, but you always still need to hone it properly before it's really sharp. The third case is an example I fortunately don't have with me today. It's a damaged tool, a chipped edge, a nick. The edge has to be restored. These are honing guides. They're used to hold a chisel on a stone at a consistent angle. I don't use them. I was trained to hold the chisel freehand. And that way you can use the entire stone. It's a simple skill to learn. It's a technique like anything else. It takes a little practice. And that's what we're going to show today. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you learn how to do it, it becomes second nature. I was taught by Maurice Fraser, and Maurice is very kindly going to join us today and give you the lesson he gave me a while ago.
Hi, Joel. How are you doing?
Maurice, great to see you. Well, what do you need to sharpen with?
Well, we'll need the India stone, the medium stone, the hard Arkansas stone, some oil, some paper toweling, very exotic. And for after this tool has been done being abraded, some nice soothing leather to smooth the last snags off.
Okay, well, let me clear off the bench of everything else so you have some space to work, and then we can get started.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll start with the oil, which you'd think was for lubrication. It actually does lubricate, and it's perfectly welcome. It makes the action of the blade on the stone much easier. But the main reason for the oil is to float off the microscopic particles of metal that get abraded off the stone, or onto the stone off the tool, and which would, if allowed to remain there, would clog the stone, the pores, obscure the cutting points, and prevent the stone from doing any cutting at all. Now the stone has been oiled. I'm going to show you how bevel is really held solidly down to the stone. It's a two-hand process. I'm going to show you what the left hand does. I've chosen a small chisel that's easily held down with one hand. You would never hone using just one hand. Not practical. So this is what the left hand does. An index finger or the middle finger or both hold the tool down, pressing the bevel from behind. Here's the bevel, here is behind. And this hand alone, the left hand, should be able to hold the tool down solidly. Remember now, if you're right-handed, the left hand is dominant, the right hand is subordinate. To keep the right hand subordinate, we kill the leverage that it might have if the right hand were way up near the handle. There's a little fulcrum down here at the base of the bevel, and the right hand up here, the merest twitch of the right hand would overpower the left. This must not happen. Let me actually switch to the tool we're going to be sharpening. Left hand holding down, the right hand holding low. Kill its leverage. Another way of killing some of the right hand's possible domination of the left is to keep the right hand quite loose. I would hold blade, thumb to the left, index finger to the right, not top and bottom. That kills the compliance of the tool. So thumb left, index right, quite low onto the tool. It's important that I keep my right hand loose, because the minute the right hand tightens up, the sensation of clicking down, let me have you hear that. You hear it?
Keep doing it.
The oil squishes out. The right hand just helps, but does not tighten up against the joining of the blade with the stone. Now, let me show you how to move the tool over the stone. Let your left and right arms be a hold down system. Click with the left, hold down low, loose and low with the right. And move the tool left and right across the stone. Not this way, but this way, because the distance diagonally is greater and offers much more resistance to the thrust of the tool. Move the tool this way and you get a roundedness. Moving the tool this way is almost impossible to round. Cheating. Do it. Go for it. Now watch. Much better. Much better. Hit the whole length of the stone. It's all paid for. Use it up. You'll notice that I'm not swinging my arms. I could do that, but it's much easier to let the left and right arm be a hold down system and move the body slowly, left and right. The main pressure is downward. Don't move left and right vigorously or you'll spill the tool off its little platform, the bevel. So slow motion, solidly held down from overhead. Move your whole body, cover the whole stone. I'm not doing the figure eights that are sometimes described in the old textbooks. They can give you a roundness. Use rather letters Z's or horizontal ends, however you like to spell it. Let's do that again. Hold down with the left, solidly with the right. The tool sideways, almost completely sideways or heavily diagonal. Cover the whole length of the stone. And if it reassures you, you can stop at the end of each stroke and check that the bevel is solidly onto the stone. The question is, how long do I have to do this? I'm trying to get the tool sharp. And the way of making sure that the tool is sharp is to produce the burr that's the natural, perhaps peculiar reaction of metal to becoming thin. As this bevel gets, as the edge gets thin to final sharpness, the metal spills over. It's called a burr or wire. Oh, I feel that. There's a lot of burr there. What the appearance of the burr tells me is that I've gotten the metal as thin as it's going to get. It's very easy to feel. It's very obvious. It's direct evidence that we've gotten to sharpness. You can't get burr without the edge having gotten that thin. And the edge can't get that thin without producing burr. Now we're through with the first stage of sharpening. We can go on to refine on the hard Arkansas stone, a natural stone which is as fine as we can normally get, or as fine as I would ever care to get. Now, the reason I'm wiping this off is that the grit in the oil could damage my precious Arkansas stone. It'll bear up for decades against metal, but not very well against the combination of oil, grit, and metal. So I'm going to clean off the grunge. Not because I'm fastidious, but because I'm a cheapskate. It's an expensive stone. Now I can start the honing process on the Arkansas stone. It's smoother. It's so smooth, it's hard to believe sometimes that it's really removing metal. But you'll see the metal being removed. The oil will turn black from the microscopic particles of metal depositing in the oil. Watch. The same hold down, the motion is much easier because I'm having much less friction. Cover the whole stone. I'm beginning to get some little streaks of black already. I'm not going to concern myself with the burr quite yet. What I want to do is refine the texture at the cutting edge. One way of telling when I'm done is that there's a new texture imposed by the Arkansas stone. The Arkansas stone produces a shiny, a brushed, smooth, sort of brushed chrome look, unlike the texture produced by the medium India stone, which is more shiny and glittery. And if in doubt, the other way of assuring that the Arkansas stone has given its texture over to the cutting edge, and that is to do 20 or 30 strokes. That if you're not sure, just do your 20 or 30 strokes. I could see it, by the way, but let's be doubly sure. 3. Cover the entire stone as before. Remember, use your body to carry your holding down system. That is, your hold down system is your left and right hand cradled together. And hold down much more vigorously than you move left or right. That's the secret of not spilling the bevel off its original angle. Now that we're finished getting burr all across the edge, we can begin to think about getting rid of the burr, which is tightly curled across the back. This is pretty easy to do. Let me show you how to hold the tool solidly down on the Arkansas stone. It's very easy to do because it's such a large area. But one thing you must avoid doing, that is holding the handle. It's very easy. The merest flinch would raise the blade upward and be very damaging to the cutting edge. This is a little more awkward, but take your hand off the handle. Put your hands over the top of the tool, and move it back and forth. Even an earthquake couldn't budge the chisel off of its level course. I'm going to go back and forth. We can do loops. You could even sign your name, but don't dot any I's. And I'll bet that burr has disappeared. The burr has disappeared. Where has it gone? It's gone over to the bevel side. We now start the process called chasing the burr. What we'll do is alternate the bevel as we had done it before, alternate it with the back and the bevel and the back and the bevel, and you'll find that the burr will either fall off, and you can actually see a little silvery line. That's exciting when it happens. Or we'll remove it by abrasion. We'll gradually wear it thinner and thinner and thinner until there is no more. Let's start with the chasing of the burr. Okay, the burr is now on the bevel side. And here we go, just a few strokes, and we'll check it out, see whether the burr has done its thing. The bevel is smooth, and the burr has spilled onto the back. We're going to alternate them. Back. 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes. Good. It was 4 or 5 or 6 strokes. Back to the bevel. When you're doing this, be careful to slightly lighten up the pressure as this procedure progresses. Otherwise, you could generate new burr and be here for a long time. Okay. Smooth, rough. More and more gently. It's getting smaller. The burr is getting smaller. Let's hope it wears away before your patience wears away. A little more for the back. Gently, 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 gently. I think I'm almost there. Now, the back and the bevel feel identical. There is no burr on either one, quite smooth. I could use the tool now, but we can get the cutting edge sweeter, cleaner, and a little thicker by using a secondary bevel. Let me show you how to do this. To get the second bevel, register click down the way we did before, and we'll get back to the original 25 degrees that the tool had been ground at. Look at the handle. I'm going to try to raise the handle as small an amount as I know how, which should be approximately 5 degrees. Just a little bit. From here to this. Move quickly, gently across the stone. Go back, take reference, as before, from the original angle. Click down, look at the handle, raise it the smallest amount you know how. Quickly, but not too quickly, across the stone. Go back, find the original bevel, look at the handle, raise it the smallest amount you can. Raise it so, and not too fast, not too slow. And lo and behold, I've cleaned off more burr from the cutting edge, and I've made a micro bevel, probably no wider than a human hair. What do we do with that? Let's chase the burr, for the burr has gone back to the back, and we'll be chasing the burr, this time with a micro bevel, but not on the back. The back always remains perfectly flat. Here. The burr that the micro bevel had produced is now totally gone, and it's back to the bevel, the secondary bevel, of course. So we're going to do a bit of bevel burr chasing. Again, just as before. Look at the handle, Raise it the smallest amount you can, gently across. Go back, find the original primary bevel angle, clicking down onto it. Raise the handle the smallest amount. The micro bevel is very smooth and the back has gotten rough. So let's chase the burr at the new angle, the back always being flat. It feels as though the back and the micro bevel are equally smooth. Hallelujah. Here's the best way, I think, of feeling the edge. Do not move the finger back and forth over the edge, or you'll cut yourself. Rather, against the back, make a very acute angle, and gently, I mean gently, draw the finger down so that the ridges of skin engage the cutting edge. If the tool is sharp, the edge will feel hungry and catch the ridges of skin of your fingerprint very easily, as this is doing now. Remember, no sideways, but very gently down the back and a quite acute angle. It's grabbing the skin, it's pretty sharp. But I'll bet that if we strop on the leather, it'll become even sharper. Strop is a piece of leather, should have no abrasive dressings. We're through with abrasion. The Arkansas stone is about as fine a grit as you'd ever care to have. And I think that plain, bare, smooth leather, strop like this, possibly mounted onto a piece of wood. Ideally, I think, a double thickness. It's a little mellower stroke. It's more forgiving. Get the rest of the oil off this. We don't want the strop to get oily. We handle this the same way we handle the stone, but we can be a little more careless, but only a little more careless. Feel the bevel down. It's touching. Then with fast, gentle stroke outward, go back. We don't want to move the chisel back or the plane blade back and forth, or we'll get leather shoelaces. One direction only with the edge trailing. Find the edge, edge trailing. Find the bevel and the edge, edge trailing. Do about a dozen strokes. I would say about a dozen strokes. And after a while, you develop a sense of rebound. But notice the action. This is important. The edge is surprisingly fragile. And if I were to change the angle in mid-stroke, in other words, do a thing that looked like this, the edge would not lose its cutting quality, but it would be curled over on itself like the top of a window shade and no longer address itself in the direction of the cut. Basically, you would lose the function of the cutting edge. So what you've got to do is go across the strop and raise the whole arm. Don't change angle, but like a jet taking off in a long airstrip. See, the whole arm goes up. The whole arm goes up. The whole arm goes up. And when you have about 10 or a dozen, turn over onto the back. Now, obviously, you can't go like this with the handle up because the hand would elevate the edge, and that would give us a backward curve, a backward curl of the cutting edge. So hold the handle off the strop like so, like so, like so. Don't raise, but don't raise the tool as though it were at a fulcrum, but in a long, gentle upward stroke. Or even stay perfectly flat if you're comfortable doing that. 9, 10. That's one set. 10 on the bevel or a dozen on the bevel, 10 or a dozen on the back. Do 3 or 4 sets. What will that do? That will lick all the debris, the fine debris off, give almost a warmth and a silky polish to the surfaces forming the edge itself. And then feel what the edge is like. Set number 2. There, I think that finishes it. smooth and silky, evidence that there's not even a minute trace of detritus or microscopic residue of burr. The edge is clean and free to cut the wood directly without the intervention of any tiny amounts of burr itself. The best kind of cutting. Beautiful. Well,
So, is it sharp?
you bet.
Huh? You want to give it a shot and try it?
Sure. Here we go. Long paring cut.
That's a really sharp chisel. That's great.
bet.
So can you sharpen all my tools?
I'll consider.
Well, Maurice, thanks very much for teaching me many years ago, and thanks for coming today and showing everybody. The best part about freehand sharpening is that you can sharpen anything. You don't require any fixtures, and the equipment, as we know, is very simple. Spoke-shaped blades, for example. No need for a fancy fixture to hold them. Just find the bevel, move the blade on the stone. Narrow plane blades, just find the bevel, move the tool slowly on the surface of the stone. Big, thick chisels are fairly straightforward. Find the bevel, move the chisel on the stone. Short chisels are fairly easy. Chisels about 1 inch or so are very good to start practicing with. Narrow chisels are the hardest. Maurice suggests go straight to the Arkansas stone. You can still get a wire from there. Find the bevel. Don't skew the chisel. You get a little more stability. And move the stone tool back and forth. Maintaining oil stones is really easy. With normal action, normal use, they won't dish, and just keep them clean. When you're done, dab off the old oil, and with it, whatever steel comes with it. Apply a little fresh oil to kind of let it soak in. And then cover the stones so they don't get dirty from dust in the shop. And that's all there is to it. Very simple equipment, a little technique, just requires some practice. So, happy sharpening, and thanks for joining us today.